All right. Hello, hello, hello. Good afternoon. Welcome, everybody, to another live episode of Women Unleashed. I am so excited today because I get to ask some really, really fun questions. And this is calling out to all ladies out there and also gentlemen. But we're going to be really diving deep, literally, into intimacy today. I've got a friend of mine, beautiful woman, whom I've had the pleasure to share the stage, the real stage, in Paris this year at the START conference. Maggie is a relationship and intimacy specialist. And so hold on, hang on to your seats there. But before I introduce my beautiful guest, I just want to remind you where you are. You are an author and transformational coach, Grace Harris. And for those who are listening for the first time, what we do here in Women Unleashed is we talk about intergenerational transformation. And really what that is I've gathered a collective of powerful speakers, authors, healers, multi-passionate entrepreneurs who've been through a journey that they have transcended, usually a significant life event that had taught them some great lessons in life, which have happened to you, I believe, because it happens to everyone. But what we do here is we share the framework. We share the lessons. We share the step-by-step things that we've done so we can partake some hope, some inspiration, some light, some insights, some wisdom, some real fun tips and hacks. And so if you do have a question, you're welcome to put it in the comments below. We will answer them for you either live or later on. And if you know someone who can benefit from these types of conversation, feel free to share the live video right now. And also please let us know if you're here live, hashtag live, or if you're here on replay, hashtag replay. Now, without further ado, I want to introduce Miss Maggie Bain. She is streaming live all the way from Channel Islands in Europe somewhere. I'm unable to, my geography is a little bit lost right now. And a bare naked coach, Maggie Bain. Hello, my love. How are you?
Hi, thank you so much. I know, where is Jersey, right? So it's a little island, as you say, in the Channel Islands between England and France. So actually closer to France. So a little tiny island. So yes, this is early morning for me, and I know later in the evening for you. So it's amazing. It's amazing, isn't it, that we can connect like this. So thank you for the invitation. Lovely to be here.
I am honored. It's my pleasure. I'm grateful for the space and the time that you give to Women Unleashed. I hear a different accent, which is not a European or an English accent or a French accent. And I know, Maggie, you've been through a whole thrilling ride in life. So, where does the accent come
I
from?
know.
And tell me about your story. Why
I
have you become passionate about
know.
relationship and intimacy?
Gosh, wow. I know. I love to call myself, somebody once said to me, they said, "Oh, you're really a global citizen, aren't you?" And I'm like, gosh, that's probably the best way of saying it. If I told you quickly, and we'll be whizzing through the miles, I was born in Nigeria, brought up in Scotland. When I was 28, as a nurse, I went to the Bahamas on a 2-year work contract. And I then met my then husband in the first week. And some people might be able to relate to this one way or another. You know, you end a family. I've got 2 sons that are Bahamians and a grandson, and I lived there for 26 years. And then my life changed. And why I'm so passionate about relationships and intimacy is that when I was heading towards 50, as a nurse, I was thinking, gosh, I can't keep on doing this till, I'm really old and I can't be running behind doctors. And I spoke to myself really quietly one afternoon and said, what do you really want to do? And I have always wanted to be a sex therapist. So I'm from there, good old Google, did my research, and I found that I could train in West Palm Beach as a Florida board certified sex therapist, which is what I am. And so then coming back to the Bahamas, there wasn't one there. So if anybody's been in this position of being the first, there's nothing to model on, nobody really to help you or guide you. And so I had to step out and try and test the waters. And as I was more accepted, I wrote a weekly column in the local newspapers for 2 years. And from there, I was invited on radio shows and TV. And that's when I discovered, as you know, the love of the microphone. And once I discovered the microphone, I discovered my true voice and my true being, really. And I was able to move from there. And so things happened.
Yeah.
But as some women might know, sometimes when we grow, and of course, as we're growing, we're changing, and we think our partner is keeping up with us. And I thought he was. And, you know, that's all part of your credibility, you know, a relationship and intimacy specialist. And at the peak, as I was soaring, I discovered that he was having an affair. So that's when everything changed from there. And, but more interestingly, he changed. And so I've done it recently, a video on this about, you know, do people really change in that way towards you in an intimate, or is it that they reveal themselves? And so that's the interesting, and so that's how it also developed. And he remained that person, not the person that I thought I knew and was married to. And so that changed everything from then on. And I had to come back to the UK, and here we go. That's how I end up in Jersey. But my heart, my home is always the Bahamas.
Yeah, 28 years. Wow, that
26, yeah, 26. Yeah, I lived over there more than, yeah. So my accent isn't Bahamian either, you know, and it's funny, I can't hear my accent. I don't know about you, but it's the one thing everywhere I go, people always say, oh, are you American? Are you Canadian? Are you Irish? So everybody goes, and I just say I'm transatlantic. So yeah. So I'm sure a lot of people can relate to my story. And hey, we are just like each other, and we're human, and that's the way. Yeah.
Absolutely. You know, one of the things that really caught me in a briefing that you wrote for Women Unleashed, and it really struck my heart. You said something about I had to give up my mind to find my soul.
I had to lose my mind.
Yeah.
Wow. For any woman that has gone through deep betrayal and has gone through divorce and or separation or those massive changes, you will have, well, I don't know if there's anybody who really could say that they haven't felt as if they've lost their mind. It doesn't mean clinically, and you know, but you feel, because there is a sense of, you know, we lose our trust in a way for ourselves. Like, how could I have got it so wrong? Why didn't I see these things? And what was it in my past or my childhood that stopped me from? Was there? And so we start questioning ourselves over everything. And so we start thinking, yeah, and so there is that sense that we lose our mind. But through it all, and you never, you know, that sense of keeping the light and the hope and your eyes on the horizon is great. That is the thing that kept me going. For me, it's I always see it as the little, you know, the little emoji gift with the box with the red bow. So for me, it's that. And sometimes it got so distant and so small. And then sometimes that little box got much bigger. But when that box disappeared, that is the worst, because then you are hopeless. You are without hope. And without hope, there is despair. And so that's where we lower, and that is the feeling of stuck. So as long as I could see that box, and still today, as long as I can see that, then there is hope. And so that journey, and there's nothing, I mean, I would have loved somebody to pick me up and drop me at the end and drop me at places that felt better, but you can't. And I'm so sorry for everybody that is in that just now. Whatever type of grief it is, it's grief. We have to painfully go through every single step. We have to feel absolutely everything. but the beauty is the enrichment of your soul. And you may not be feeling it at this moment, but I can tell you I've become a better person. I've become a better therapist. I've become a better friend. But more importantly, I've become a better woman myself. I feel like I've really know myself now, where 20, 30 years ago, I thought I knew myself, but this is a whole new Maggie now. And I'm so proud. I'm so proud. And yeah, hey, I did lose my mind at times. And hey, it is what it is. But my soul feels richer, much, much richer now. And so I am so grateful. I'm so grateful actually that I've gone through all of this. So
Yeah.
sometimes that's hard for people to understand, but I'm sure just like you, you're a whole different person. I read your book, which is absolutely amazing, and I love that you said where I had sent you the picture of the highlighted things. That wow, that was, I loved all the book, but that those few sentences for me. But look what you've learned. Look at, it's incredible. Change can be good. And in the short term, we can feel it, but in the long term, I'm telling you, there is a richness that comes from all of that. Yeah.
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 I love when you said about the pain. You mentioned pain. And I know also that you're one big believer that with healing comes pain, which is really the getting to know yourself again. And I do believe that when you talk about the losing our mind kind of part to find our soul, for me, it's the death of the ego, you see. It's the death of who we thought we might have been, or how we thought things may have been, or what we
Mhm.
believed might have been, and then something happens like betrayal in your case, or for other people it could be illness, it could be redundancy, it could be anything, and then all of a sudden we don't know what is real anymore, so we lose the ego belief, the ego
Yes.
mental
Yes.
model. And then the pain comes because the soul rises. And that is, like Maggie's saying, in the long term, it is, you will see in hindsight. But when you're going through it,
Terrible.
thank you
Yes.
so much for the loving reminder, because we cannot remind one another enough that you are loved, that you are going through something that, like you said, no one can really pick you up, and I'll pick you up so you can skip this part and drop you there.
I know. Wouldn't that, you think during that, all that pain, I remember thinking that, could I just skip to the end bit? It's like reading the last chapter in the book, a painful book, and that you think, gosh, I just want to know there's a happy ending. Or I write poetry too, and I wrote a poem that said, I would just like to know that this isn't wasted pain, that I'm not going through this for nothing, that there is a reason for this, a good reason for this at the end. And wouldn't it be lovely if we were just picked up, but it's not. And but there's beauty in everything. But when you're in that pain, you don't care about the beauty. Don't tell me this or that. I'm in pain. I'm like, it's just too much. It is too much sometimes. And that's why you have to learn. And I really recommend people learning how to be still, very quiet, being alone by themselves. And I know it makes us feel better to know that somebody new might love us, and we might go into another relationship or start dating, but there is a deep sense of healing when you're able to take time and be by yourself. And that's when they're really getting to know yourself. Because when you were talking about the dropping of the ego and everything, and I remember quite clearly that for ages and ages thinking, why me? Why me? Why did this happen to me? And like you say, it may not be betrayal, it might be illness, it might be all sorts of things, the loss of a job, all sorts of things. And you think, why me? I was really good. I did everything right. Why me? Until a long time later, I started to hear those little voice, the whispers, and which is the understanding, your own understanding, my understanding. And I started to think, well, why not me? Why not me? Because I am the same as you. And we are all, there's nothing different. There's nothing perfect. There's no perfect relationship. There's no perfect person. There is no, and so it is that dropping of the ego. Why not me? And once I started thinking, why not me? I'm human. I am like every woman. And then it started to feel better. And once we find ways, whether you want to call them coping skills, changing perception, changing mindset, changing way of thinking, your own language, you can get it. But I'm telling you, for me, it was that I was able to spend a lot of time by myself working these things out. So there's a lot of thinking time.
Yeah.
And so the question is for a lot of people, oh, can you handle that? Can you handle that thinking time? Because that thinking time, which is the digging deeper into yourself and your own actions, and what part did I play, which is like, whoa, was there? And so that is all part of growing as well. So, and it's all good, really.
I love how you are, before I can ask the question, you have it for me because and this is why I love you, Maggie, because you are so wise in the way of the soul and the world as well, being a relationship and intimacy specialist, which we will get to in a minute. But I just want to sort of like linger a little bit in a part where you said the stillness and can you handle it, because it's okay for people to say stillness speaks, go and meditate, and I'm not trying to make to mock any of that. I am a shamanic practitioner myself. I am as spiritual as you can get. However, I had a real big ego to crush and deal with in my own healing phase because it was very loud. And like you said, stillness, and the question is, can you handle it? And so this is where I want to linger a little bit, because this is many of us as human beings get it really convoluted and complicated. Like, it's so hard, like it's so painful to listen to the inner voice. It's so painful to remember the memories. I'm just gonna drink it away, or gamble it away, or sleep it around away, or do you know what I mean? Like, we have these things that we hold on to cover up the pain
to make us feel better. And it's all because it's hard. But for me, I'm a great music person. For me, you may laugh and people think it's very strange, and I don't have a TV. And so people are like, you don't have a TV? I said, yeah, but I do watch Netflix on the laptop. So I'm not that kind of, but I listen to a lot of music. Now, music is really great because not only is it a mood changer. So if you're feeling down, you may put an upbeat or whatever. And yes, if you're feeling sad, you might listen to lots of sad songs. But if you find the right thing, then, it's just, for me, it was putting my feet up on the sofa, listening to music, either with my eyes shut, or, you can still be the music can be in the background. It's not always up here. And so that's so it wasn't traditional or what people would think a meditating, but it's like a timeout and so maybe we should call it timeout for ourselves. But it's just allowing yourself a time where you don't need other people's distractions. You can choose now whether you want to put the music off or whatever, but it's like, so that for me is just putting my feet up on the sofa, getting comfortable, and either closing my eyes or just being very still. Because the idea of busyness, you got to keep busy, keep distracted, which is great. There is a time and a place for that. I'm extremely busy and I'm on the move all the time. But to find that place and that time that you can, whether it's a slot, whether people schedule it in or whatever, that is where, for me, and that's how I encourage people. It's find your own your own quiet, you know.
Yeah.
But and then if it gets too much, if you feel, gosh, I'm overthinking this and whatever, then stop it. You know, we don't have to set, well, I've got to sit here for 15 minutes. I've got to do, and you know, Maggie and Grace say, no, you find your own. If it's only 4 minutes or 5 minutes or whatever, and you have to get going again, get going. But there's a habit that starts evolving, and that is self-care. And so that is, you're taking care of yourself. And during pain and healing, finding ways and good habits to take care of yourself are priceless. It's priceless.
Yeah. Saying, I love that you mentioned music because, see, when it comes to healing, really, there's a lot of it that is you are looking for the deeper level of you, the one that has the true and pure light within. And to be able to do that, it's a process of being patient. And the patience comes with, I am not TikToking myself for a 15-minute meditation. It's not, it's really allowing yourself to just blend into what feels good. And when Maggie mentioned music, I loved it because this is what I want to say about music is that we have to be really, we're re-embedding new ways of thinking, right? New neurological pathways. This is rather scientific. It's not as woo-woo as people think. What happens with music is there are so many, especially me, I'm a girl from the 80s and I love 80s and so we have to be quite careful because with music, there are songs that we associate with memories. And so when you are, say, healing from a particular painful event, emotionally painful event, when you listen to music in the past that you're very familiar with that trigger the emotions of sadness or compassion or nostalgia or all of that, well, that's fine. But just be very aware. What kind of emotions do you want to cultivate? Do you want to keep cultivating nostalgia? Do you want to keep cultivating sadness? Because for me, I heal, one of my aims is I heal every day. Every freaking day, I heal myself. And so when I'm listening to music, I'd play. So I have Apple Music in my phone, and when the 80s come on, I would really be really mindful. What emotions am I getting here? And if it is of old memories that are not really serving my future dreams, then I would look for something else. And usually that is music that I'm not quite familiar with, but it feels good enough. And so I'll sit with it for a while until I decide, okay, I can re-embed this. And so these are just really small life hacks, brain hacks that don't cost you a lot of money. Like Apple Music is, I don't know, $11 a month. And there's all sorts of music from all sorts of different spectrum. If that is one healing tool that you can walk away from here today, I would encourage you. You can type in any words you want by browsing the music. Type in spiritual, type in jumpy, type in radical music, just to rewire some of those pathways that have a tendency to put you in that why me, poor me, pitiful state.
Exactly. And I was just thinking when you were talking just now, the journey of music that I've gone on through the pain. Like I said, you listen to the sad love songs and you move along and then you go to the joy and all that kind of thing. But at a certain point, I discovered that I was listening to new music and new music for me. And so it's like new memories, like they say, the bad get moved to here, as I say, or they never go away. They're always, but it's where they place them, because we have to make room for new memories and new things and good things, which is the new you, not the old version of you. And for me, I found that it was the same with music. Now I listen to some music that I never listened to before. And so it's a reflection of your growth and who you are now, because people don't believe how, you may meet old friends or old people from your past from that time through the pain when you were in such pain. And and they think, oh, you really changed. And they have trouble with seeing you like that because they want to keep you at where their memory of you. And so it's that with music and new memories and music and all that sort of thing that we're able to make a new place. And so this is where we grow and where we change. And so people, it's okay, it's good. Changing and growing. Who I was in my 20s is not who I was in my 30s, 40s, 50s, and here I am in my 60s. So, and I'm like, wow, I wonder what's going to happen. And so this is like, I'm interested to know what's going to happen in my 70s and my 80s and where I'm going to be, because, I'm always heading in back home direction or in across the pond, as they say. But it's okay. We don't have to live with our triggers. We don't need to sit there. They will always be there. I have discovered that recently, only yesterday. And I was like, wow. But as long as you recognize them, it doesn't mean that you have to stay there. So, there's a choice. There's a choice right there. We are all placed with choices. And at a certain point in healing, where you think, well, I don't have, you think your choices are limited and you have to, you will reach a point. There will come a point where you will start noticing, oh, I don't have to feel like that. I don't have to do that. I don't need to be spoken to like that. And I don't need to react like that. And so this is the new us. And I think it's
I love it. You speak about stillness, space, and choice, and it reminds me of the famous
and
Victor,
newness,
yeah,
yes.
newness, yeah. It reminds me of that famous Viktor Frankl saying between stimulus and response is a space, and it's in that space is our opportunity for growth where we can make a decision how to react or not at all react. And I love that. And Maggie, what I love about your journey is that early on you knew what your passion is, and then all these things happened in between that threw you off guard and had you into a journey of upside down inside out thing, and then you came back to who you really are and still serve people in a way that's really special for you and matters to you, which is about the relationships and intimacy. And we've had some really fun conversations around this in person. So let me see, where do I want to? What is the first?
I know. I know. Thank you. I mean, I think once you do discover your real, whether you want to call it purpose or whether you want to just call it, I knew who I really was and what brought me joy and who I felt so fulfilled doing my relationship and intimacy work. This was in the Bahamas, and I had my own office in my home, and I was doing it full time. And then when things just deteriorated. And so I had to have what I called an emergency airlift back to the UK, which if I hadn't done, because people scold you and you meet with such scorn when you do radical things like that. And people are like, well, how could you leave your children? My children were grown men at the time. And I'm like, I never wanted to, but I stayed until the very, very end. And I'm talking 3 years after the divorce. So this isn't, so you see, I'll stay to the very end until I'm completely broken. And I broke bad. And so I would not be here today and I would not be here for my children today if I hadn't made that huge choice and that huge decision to be picked up and dropped back in the UK. And it was, to change every aspect of your life, I would not recommend it. It's just, it's not for the faint of heart. I can tell you, it's terrible. And so there is who you were here is not who you are here. And so that loss of identity probably is the worst thing ever. Because people saw me leaving as a nurse, and so they came back, and so of course they only saw me as that. So they ignored, they didn't realize who I was back there. So that loss of identity, the quickest way for me to make money, and I had to put a roof over my head, feed myself, after being taken in for 9 months by people and being fed and shelter and all that. I managed to get myself going. I had to do a return to nursing program. And so there was okay, this is a skill that I can make money from and I can look after myself, but it's not truly who I am. And I had to put aside just here, but that's who I am. I really am the bare naked coach, the relationship and intimacy specialist. This is what brings me joy. This is what brings me fulfillment. And so I had to make sure that during this time that I was always doing that type of work as well, which you can do and have it all. You can, because I didn't want to lose sight. Can you imagine? And for those people out there who have identity or sexual orientation questions or whatever, the idea of losing yourself and who I really am, I can relate to that, because it's your identity, it's who I am. And so I did a lot of work, I worked with mentors and did courses, and I continued to write, I continued to speak, and I tapped into that because I never want to lose sight of who I truly am. And so that's, if I can say to anybody, is that don't lose your identity. Yes, I understand. Do what you need to do to survive and to get the basics in life, the shelter and the food, and you have to take care of yourself, of course. But losing your identity, never do that.
Yeah. Don't give up who you truly are in your heart.
Oh, no. Because life has a way of coming full circle again. It's if we keep on doing that and we're growing and building, and then we will get to a point where we can do it full time. We can truly blossom and grow and really step into, as they say, step into who we truly are. So, yeah.
So who do you help now, Maggie? Couples or women only or men only? Who do you coach?
I know, it's so interesting. So even before COVID, long before COVID, in fact, long before, was it before I came back to the UK? Anyway, I changed my business to purely online. So you can find me on barenakedcoach.com and of course on the social platforms. So, coaches and marketing people love to tell you, you got to niche, you can't be for everybody. And so over the years, I found that my greatest results and the things I really enjoyed, and so many coaches and therapists find it daunting dealing with couples, working with couples. And so I love working with couples. I call it mind aerobics, because they're talking to me, and they might use me in the middle between the two of them, but it's lovely. It's very satisfying. And I love to say, to my knowledge, maybe there's more now, I knew of 2 little human beings that were conceived from couples that had completely been detached for years. One of them for 4 years, one couple for 4 years hadn't been intimate at all, young couple. And through working with me, they came together, they started having regular sex, and then, hey, got a daughter, and so that, hey, what greater results than getting human beings. But on LinkedIn, I speak to men, because I found over the years, a lot of men, there's very little, support and help, and where do they ask their questions? And so that's really interesting. And but we've been talking recently, my favorite and my new, and where I think it is my true home now, is on TikTok. And my sons used to say to me years ago, oh, Mommy, you need to go on TikTok. That's the place for you, because I love doing videos, and as you can tell, love chatting. And I was like, oh, no, that's where you got to do the dancing and the jumping and all that. But in fact, there's a very educational section in TikTok. And so I found my little groove there. And so, hey, everybody come and join me on TikTok, Bare Naked Coach. And same on Instagram. So it's great. And I'm able to express myself, teach, give advice, share some stories and tips and do all that and be myself, because it is the more we can learn about relationships and ourselves and about life. And if I can pass on all these things to people, then it brings me great joy. Great joy.
Wow. That's beautiful too, so that we can let's do TikTok. Like let's encourage everyone. Follow Maggie,
Yeah.
Bare Naked Coach on TikTok, because I heard over there there's a little bit more leeway or space,
Freedom.
say more
Mm.
things that are not gonna be as well, I don't know, screened, if you will. But I wanted to, while we're here today, perhaps maybe fire out two questions at least that our
Mm.
audience are probably, well, very eager to ask in behalf of them. And one of those questions I can think about is when it comes to couples intimacy, what is the what is usually the number one reason that it is not there, that the intimacy does not feel like it is the type of intimacy that both would like to have? Like, I guess, is it that disconnection? What is the thing that causes
Mm.
that?
Mm. Well, what's coming to mind as you're talking is that habits. So, you hear about, the rose-colored glasses, the high passion to begin with. Then we get to know each other. We become familiar with each other's bodies. We get familiar with the pattern of lovemaking. Oh, if I really want to break it down, oh, his leg's going to come over here, and oh, he's going to do this, and we're going to start this, and I know the pattern of what is going to be. And so there's a predictability. Now, there's a great comfort in, I know them, there's a security and a comfort. But like you say, there's a certain, most people still want a little spikes of passion and heat at times. But, I want to keep the stability of what I know. And so it's that introducing of, or reminding yourselves of, what was it that we did in the beginning? And I always say, keep these conversations out of the bedroom. There's nothing worse than in the middle of lovemaking and you're like, oh, well, can you start doing this? Or, oh, I like this or whatever. And I'm like, it's like, because we get into, do you talk during lovemaking, or are you a silent couple? Like, is there, and it throws people off. We're like, well, she doesn't normally say anything. Why is she saying that? Is she dissatisfied? Oh, has she met somebody else? We start getting insecure and it's, so you've got to be very careful with those sort of conversations. But again, I was doing a video recently about, it's really the firsts. We have this, the magic of the first kiss, the first time that we hook up, the first time that he touched my breast, the first time that I touched him, the first time that I did this. And so we think after the firsts, that's it. What, then they become seconds, thirds? What happens if you've been together for 10 years? Then it's like, oh God. But again, it's the way that you think and you perceive. You can't tell me that you have done everything that could be firsts. So we've got to get creative. And then what happened to seconds? Think about desserts. Think about when I had second desserts, second puddings. So again, it's the anticipation of what's to come. So as you know, we've talked about, we can take turns, whether it is your free time on a Friday night or whatever, people get, oh, I can't schedule. Schedule sounds awful. And I call it planned playtime. It's all the language that we use. There can be a lot of fun that you can have with planned playtime. Take turns, but it's the, whether you don't normally text each other, perhaps, send a little text, meet me Friday night, 7:00, and say a place or whatever. There's an anticipation, there's an excitement, which was what you felt at the beginning. And so it's recreating or reinventing or starting something new. So it's new practices, new habits, new fun things that you can introduce. So it's a lot of times it's that lowness, the dullness, the boring, the predictability that comes into couples that if you feel it and if they feel it, talk about it and say, and the thing is always to keep things light. People can get so serious, say all these things with a smile and a little laugh and instead of saying, oh, we've got a deep problem and and it's that scares them. They're like, oh, they think you're talking divorce. Well, no, you just want to, hey, let's do something fun. Let's in the bedroom, you know what I mean? Or something. And it doesn't have to be the bedroom. This whole idea of, and again, that's where the predictability is. And I'm not talking about being exhibitionists and doing something on the beach, but there's, seduction is just as sexy as the whole lovemaking and sex act. So, have you ever rubbed your hand up his leg underneath the table in the restaurant? Or, there's play footsie, if you things that you've never done, and they'd be like, oh, I'm like, oh, I didn't know you had that in you. It's so you have to get creative.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if you haven't got to the place where you can talk to each other out of the bedroom, maybe there are some deeper things. Maybe there are some resentments. Maybe there's some disappointments that need to be talked about to get them out of the way. And so you have to deal. And that's where it comes to my work. People might have tried all that, but it hasn't worked because there are some things that need to be dealt with. So get in touch with me if you ever need help. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, that's exactly what my next question was. Again, you predicted what I was going to ask because you talk about, the lowness, the dullness, the predictability, which is just about everyone else because of work, because of children, because of everything that we have to do on a daily basis. As couples, those things can creep in, the dullness and the predictability and all of that.
Mhm.
And what I was thinking when you were saying that is, like you said, often this is where dedication really comes in, is if this is why we have coaches, because we kind of fast track, and instead of pussyfoot around the underlying issues that could be a little bit of disappointment here, a little bit of resentment there, put them all together after 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 28 years, and then you've got these compounded unspoken issues that you are wondering, why can't we solve the intimacy through flirtation and seduction because of that? And this is why the work that you do, Maggie, is so important, because you're not really doing the just the outside things, the superficial things, because of your life experience. You were the relationship and intimacy coach whose own marriage fell apart right underneath your own nose. Therefore, the
Mhm.
lessons that you've learned
Mhm.
so deep,
Mhm.
are so deep, and so it's
Mhm.
that's why what you do, I feel, is so important. And
Thank
I love
you.
how you put things in a fun way as well. So
Thanks. I should say, and people there are probably people listening. They're like, well, she's no good if she couldn't save her own marriage. And so there's people that there was a lot of judgment, a lot of all that, but you have to know that it was years after it happened, speaking and talking and trying to get them to understand. And the level I know from my clients, the greatest way of getting over something like that, deep betrayals, is to know and to feel and to really hear the words from that person that has hurt you so deeply, the deep remorse, the deep feeling of brokenness, wretchedness. That's what remorse means. They feel wretched, that they can't live without you. You have to feel that. And if you felt that deep pain yourself, you need to know that they feel as much pain as you, if not more. And then you can start rebuilding. Unfortunately for me, I never got that. I never got that. And so, I was talking, and I'm sure you've heard the thing with, you know, intelligence, and comes from when you're able to weigh up two points of views and understand somebody else's point of view. And unfortunately, I realized that the man that I was married to at the time wasn't able to do all that. So there was a lot of, whether it's marriage or whether it's co-parenting, if you've got, your blended families or whatever, or if it's during betrayals and divorce, is that you need the cooperation from the other person for it to work. And unfortunately, I never got that, as hard as I worked at it, because, actually it was a really happy, good marriage until, like I called it, the crappy end. But there's only so much that you can do until you realize, and it took me a long time because, I told you, I waited till the very end till I was broken, 3 years after the divorce, until it was, and then I was left homeless, jobless, penniless. And so there's a lot of women that and men that leave and they don't have the financial investment that they had put in during that time. So I always tell people, no, you have to understand, if I did that, knowing all the techniques, tips, and everything that I know, and I had to do that to save myself, you have to understand that I really put in everything to get to that point. And so a lot of my clients during that time, who knew me, and so I told them, because I'm transparent, and it was a small island in the Bahamas, I couldn't not tell people, and because everybody would know anyway. And they said, we don't care, Maggie, that's okay, and so I had a lot of people. And now at this stage, so far on, when they can see that, the richness and the deep, and that, wow, if you've gone through that and you can do, and you are as you are now, and your heart is open, and you love, and you can do all these things, and you can start new relationship and all that kind of stuff, then it's what better way to show people that it is possible. It is possible.
Yeah, and especially to have had babies come out of your session. Well, not during the session, but
I know. That's what, as people are like, it's in business and market, we're all looking for results and numbers. And I'm like, so when I tell that story, they're like, wow.
yeah.
I mean, that is the ultimate for me. That is like, and sometimes, and it depends how quick and how willing couples are to correct something. Because again, it's cooperation. If you're wanting to, and your partner is sitting there resistant and, giving lip service to Maggie about what you do. And this is where, as as coaches and therapists, accountability comes in big time. So when I take clients on, and I take them on for 3 months, because I know if you think you're just coming for one session to feel a little bit better, we're not really correcting or really getting to, so 3 months. So if we start that, so in each session, and if I give homework or, play assignments or whatever at the end of each session, and you come back and then it's like, oh, well, no, we didn't do that. So you have to be able to tell me why you didn't. Because is it something that the assignment needs to be changed and corrected? So there's nothing hard, fast. It is very much what will work, what will bring you back together, and all that. And some people are quick, and some people take a long time. Then once they get there, because we've dug so deep and we've corrected and we've worked, but there has to be a willingness to do this work too. And so I always start by asking people, where do you see yourself? Do you see yourself with your partner in the next 5 years? Do you see them in the next 10 years? And if they have answers to all of that, and they've thought it, because I send them away, I say, as individuals, you have to think, what do you want? What do you really want? Because what you think or say as a couple it's all very well, but you have to contribute. We are individuals separately and we overlap as a couple. This whole losing yourself in a relationship is a
Both.
no. So you've got to know. So it's the cooperation. And so I'm your accountability. I'm going to hold you to that. So I'm not the stern headmistress, but I will. Oh, that sounds a bit like, anyway, we won't get into that, sex therapist jokes, the whips. But it is, we got to find what works for you. You've got to find a place of contentment for yourself, because then you come to your relationship and to the couple and to your partner in a much happier place. Who wants to be with somebody who's always miserable, hasn't been taking care of their own stuff? You got to take care of your own stuff and know who you are, and then come and be a great life partner.
Yes, like so true, so true. Look, one of the biggest fallacies I've ever heard is from this movie by Tom Cruise. It's called uh, where he said, "Show me the money." What was that movie? I can't even remember.
Oh, yeah, I know. Yeah.
He also said, "You complete me," which is like total BS, right? There's no such thing. I always teach my students when it comes to relationship, there really are 3 points of views, right? Like there's myself, the other person, and the relationship. So people need to be complete on their own and then come together to form a relationship, which is part of her, part of him, or her, or her, or it's and I love that. I think that if there is anything from this conversation, from Maggie's journey, from the whole entire journey she's had from when she was in her 20s, spending 26 years in the Bahamas, doing what she loved, and then everything that happened for her to heal, and now as a really, really amazing relationship and intimacy coach. It's that personal sovereignty. When we have personal sovereignty, we can have everything that we ever desired, especially relationships that matter to us, especially relationships that stick, especially relationships that nurture and cultivate the best of who we are, because we've already come into it with personal sovereignty. And no better coach than the Bare Naked Coach. Where can we find you, Maggie? I mean, you mentioned TikTok, but how do we actually
Well,
search?
my website. So my website, look at my website, Bare, BARE, Bare Naked Coach, barenakedcoach.com is my website. There are links. There's a booking because I do a free 30-minute Zoom consultation, because I always find that people not only need to talk to me, but we need to see, and people like to see, can I trust her? And so I pinpoint, and I'm usually through experience able to see quite clearly because sometimes we think, if it's the problem with, what might appear as the problem may not be the true problem. And so this is where the real work comes in. He's not helping at home, he's not doing this, he's not da, 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 da. And so this is where my work is peeling back the layers to get to what the real thing is. Because do things, they may come to me with relationship problems, and they may not think it's to do with intimacy in the bedroom, but sometimes it is. And so the question is always, does the ripple start outside and come into the bedroom, or do things start in the bedroom and ripple out into the relationship? And so, it's complex work. As we know, relationships are complex, intimate relationships. There's no quick fix. There is no one relationship that is alike, but there is an underlying basic need that we all have. Men, women, no matter where we come from, no matter what type of culture we come from, no matter what type of relationship we have, we all want to feel needed, wanted, and loved. period. And so once we lose sight of that, yeah, which is, yes, the approach with our genders, of course, are going to be different. And the different type of relationship, of course, the approach is going to be different. But once you remember that your partner wants to feel needed, wanted, and loved, you've got it. So find me on my website. Otherwise, it's the same name throughout Instagram, Facebook. Like I say, my main one is TikTok and, of course, LinkedIn. So find me anywhere. But have a good look at my website. And there we go.
Awesome, beautiful. Well, there you go, folks. You can get a free 30-minute sort of diagnostics with Maggie through barenakedcoach.com. And so, Maggie, before we do leave our listeners, I always love to invite my beautiful guests, if you could partake one last piece of wisdom with us through the journey that you've had, what would it be?
Well, Grace, this actually has only been in the last month, really, that, and I've done a video on it, of course, because once I find and reveal these things, I love to share them on video. And this has taken a long, long time. And perhaps I know you've gone through so much through your wonderful book. And I'm hoping that there are other people that might be able to relate to this. And if you can't relate to this right now, perhaps in time you will. So we like to think of our blessings and our lessons. And I've learned a lot of lessons. I obviously, when we get lessons, repeated and repeated and repeated until we learn them, until we get them. But recently, within this last month, it's like a revelation. I realized that for me, they are the same thing. My lessons are my blessings. And I am so grateful for every lesson that I've been given, because I feel blessed. I feel blessed that I have grown and become the type of woman and the person that I am today. And because this is a stepping stone. We met in Paris. I was speaking in Paris. I'm going to be speaking in Rome. I hope you're going to come and join me. I'm doing podcasts in the States and whatever. So everything grows. So I believe, and I can feel it, that this is all coming full circle for me. And can you imagine coming back to that place? Not necessarily the Bahamas, but the same, my identity, but being richer and having grown. And so I think it's beautiful. And so my lessons are my blessings, and I hope they are for you too.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. That makes my heart feel really this sensation of when you speak about the full circle, coming back full circle. One of the books that I used to love when I was young was from, everybody knows her, Danielle Steele, called Full Circle. And so when people use these words, and I've been lucky enough that the people that I've spoken to using these words are always coming from a place of growth and transformation. It makes me feel like really it is definitely the fluidity of our journey, isn't it? Like the lessons
and
are
the hopefulness. The hopeful.
Beautiful. Well, everyone, you know where to find Maggie. We're going to put her website below, barenakedcoach.com, and go and book in for a consultation. We love you. Take care of yourself. If there's anything in this live session that's sort of giving you an insight, an aha moment, a breakthrough, or a trigger even, go ahead and take care of yourself. Take some time out. Drink a cup of tea, cup of water, whatever it is that you need to do. And I hope to see you again in the next episode of Women Unleashed. We love you all. Thank you so much. Bye for now.